All right, everybody. I'm here with the one and only Dr. Elia Gourgouris. You can just call him by Elia or Dr. Elia. Don't have to remember the whole last name, right?
That's right. There
uh,
will be a test at the end of this.
yeah, right. I think it took me about 10 times to get it. And still, when I'm writing it out and I spell it, I'm like, Gour. Okay, just repeat it and then add an IS, and we're good to go.
It's not that hard once you actually see it. Yes,
yeah,
indeed.
yeah. I figured it out. Took me a year or so, but I got there. Um, anyway, hey, it's not as bad as my last name sometimes. When I was playing football in college, I'd hear, Drew Brazier in on the tackle, and you're like, dude, it's like one thing for your teacher to mess it up, and now it's like
Yeah,
in front
yeah.
of fans, it's really bad. So
The whole stadium now thinks you're a Brazier. There you go.
that's right. Oh, that's awesome. Well, hey, I'm excited to be here, man, and to jump in this with you. You've you've given a lot, and are given a lot to Mindcurrent and everything that we're doing, and we can't say how much we appreciate you enough. It's so cool to have you along, and I mean, it would only be right as you're a world expert in happiness. You're all over, man. You're in, I don't even know how many countries this year that you're speaking in, but I mean, you're
Quite a few.
all
Yes.
over the place, right? And people just love you. But my big question, I just want to like jump right into the deep end with you here of like, what is happiness, right? You hear so many people talk about this, but this is what you eat, sleep, live, and breathe. And so I'm curious of, in Elia's opinion, like, what is happiness? Share that a little bit with me.
I think happiness is a sense of well-being in the world, a sense of optimism. Often people say, "Do you think the glass is half empty or half full?" I'm like, "Have you ever considered a third option?" They're like, "Well, what's the third option?" How about the cup is full and overflowing? You ever thought about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
It's not just half empty or half full. It could be the cup is full and overflowing. And to be at peace with yourself, self acceptance, to have a heart and a mind full of gratitude, and to live that way, even though life has its ups and downs, even though life has its tragedies, even though life has things that happen that are beyond your control, and to still be able to maintain, that life is still good in spite of all these things that get thrown at us.
Hmm.
And it's very doable. In my experience, I've worked with thousands of people, and I right now, like I said, I get to lecture like you shared in South Africa. I'm going to South Africa, Indonesia, India. I'm going to Rome next month. And no matter where I go, the world is so hungry. They're starving for happiness. They're starving for wellness. They're starving for a positive message. So I feel like it's doable. It takes work. And there's some people that happiness comes easier to them, I think, than others.
Hmm.
I,
Yeah.
I, I would be an example of that. It's always come easier to me. Let's say that even my wife and kids, and they kind of say, "Well, Daddy, how are you this?" I don't know. This is the way that but I've worked at it too. I've studied it, and I live it. I breathe it. I think about it. Um, it's what I call intentional happiness. That it's thought out, and then
Mhm.
I make decisions based on, where is this going to lead me? If I make this decision, well, that's going to damage me. It may damage my self-esteem. It may damage my relationships. It may damage, you know, uh, my path forward. Or if I make a decision in this direction, I think this is going to enhance my relationships. It's going to connect me to people. Uh, it's going to enhance my own self-worth and self-acceptance in spite of my, you know, uh, human frailties, because
Yeah.
there's nobody perfect. You don't have to be perfect to be happy. I guess that's the bottom line. You can
Yeah.
be a work in progress, but still be happy.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting what you said of like, yeah, it's been, I mean, for you, maybe it's more naturally easy to ease into the happiness, but also you said that, but you worked at it. And that reminds me of a time where I had someone, we worked with and was close with, great individual. And there was a really rough moment we're dealing with in work. And I was looking at, okay, what's the risk, and also like what are all the opportunities. And he got really mad. He was pissed.
Wow.
He's like, well, yeah, sure, you just always just see it from a positive perspective, like not everyone can do that or something. Like, and I was just like, wait a second, man, hold up. Like, exactly what you just said. They're like, I don't just naturally just see it from a happy lens or a positive lens. Like, you have to work at that. And sometimes I don't. Sometimes there's no water in my glass, right?
Right, right.
But also, I think that, as you say, the glass half empty or half full, it's an interesting way of looking at that too. Of you, it's about 50% of the things that happen in life just kind of suck or are just kind of mundane, right?
Sure.
And if we look at it, that means the glass is half empty or half full. Like, we're in a bad spot, right? But that's not what it is. And this is what I hear you saying, Elia, is how we adapt to the suck and to the mundane things. That's what makes the glass overflow. It's about how we adapt
Yes.
to everything. Would you say that I'm off on that, of the adapting part?
No, I agree, because we're gonna get things thrown at us, I would say on a daily basis, if you're lucky, every other day. But
Yeah.
it's unusual to have one day where you skate by and everything is just perfect. I
Yeah.
say that in life we have perfect moments, but
Hmm.
there's no perfect life. A perfect moment could be, the birth of your first child, for example, that exceeds your expectations. This joyful occasion, or sunset, you know, in the island of Santorini or Maui. You're blown away, like, wow, this is like a perfect moment. But there's no perfect day. There's no perfect life. There's no perfect relationship. But in spite of that, you can still find happiness and joy and something positive. I believe in everything. To me, even when something painful happens, which happens to all of us, I always try to see, my wife will say this. She says, you always get this big picture perspective. You always think big picture, right? Like, and that ability has helped me, actually, because what's huge today, I know that a month from now, it's not going to be quite as big. A year from now, even smaller. 10 years from now, I wouldn't even be able to see it.
Hmm.
But today, it seems massive, right? And sometimes even overwhelming. So
Hmm.
having a big picture perspective helps a lot with that.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely, man. Well, and how do you balance, Elia, then having the big picture perspective and staying in the present moment? Like, what is that balance? How do you do that?
And that's a good question. I tend to live more like, I always look forward to something in life. There's always something like, and that excites me. It releases endorphins in my brain. It actually keeps me in this perpetual state of happiness because I'm always looking forward to something. Now, does that mean that I'm not in the present? That's a good question. I have to pull myself back sometimes and say, man, I got a lot of stuff to do today. I feel kind of stressed and overwhelmed. Um, but I just have to get through it, because you know what? On Friday, I got a great thing coming up. Or,
Mm.
so it helps me go through the mundane without sinking into this depth of, oh my gosh, this is so painful to go through all this. Because there's a reward system in my own mind and I've been that way since I was a kid, by the way. And I remember doing that since I was a teenager. There's some kind of reward at the end of this hard work, or
Mhm.
this difficult, or sometimes boring. There's not, sometimes we have to do things that are boring actually in life,
Mhm.
not very exciting. And but there's always some kind of upside, no
Mhm.
matter what that is. And
Mhm.
if there isn't an upside, there's a lesson to be learned. And
Yeah.
if I learn that lesson, that actually becomes my upside.
Yeah.
you know Even if there's no reward, if there's a lesson in it, then okay, next time when the situation arises, I'm going to handle it differently,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
I'm constantly, I feel like I'm trying to move forward. Now, of course, it's, maybe 3 or 4 steps forward, one step back, because I'm a human being. I'm not perfect. But for the most part, I always think, keep moving forward, keep moving past this,
Mhm.
keep
Yeah.
forgiving, forgive yourself, forgive others if you've been hurt. Don't hold on to things,
Yeah.
because I'm only hurting myself. Let go in a lot of ways. All those things help.
Yeah. Well, and tell me this then. What's a time in your life where, it was a struggle to be able to do what you're saying, where there were maybe circumstances against you, um, you know, that was that part where life really just sucked. And you had to really work at it. Share some of that, man.
So, aside from, the most traumatic things in life, of course, when you lose loved ones, and I lost my parents fairly young, so those are like, real grief and mourning and so on. So those are kind of extraordinary things that happen in one's life. You're only going to lose your mom once in your life. You're only going to lose your dad once in your life. So aside from that, I would say the biggest struggle that I had is when I I had this really good private practice as a clinical psychologist, thriving, working night and day, just working like a maniac.
Hmm.
And I did that for 16 years, loved it. And then for the last 2 years, I got totally burned out. And it started to affect me physically. And my body started to break down physically. And I was, uh, I was really struggling with, and I ignored it. So, word of caution here: don't do what I did. You're burnt. Like work-life balance, I didn't have it. I wasn't walking the talk. I was telling that to others. I wasn't practicing myself. I wasn't taking care of myself.
Hmm.
So I went off the deep end, and I got scared because I still have young kids at home. Like, how am I going to provide for my family? I know I can't continue to do this anymore. And
Hmm.
that's when I transitioned from private practice clinical psychologist to the corporate stuff that I do now.
That was like
And
15 years ago. Is that right, Elia?
exactly, it was exactly 15 years ago, and it was scary to let go of what I knew and what I was really good at to the unknown
Hmm.
and to something I had never been in the corporate world before, and to become an executive coach and leadership. But you know what? That was a pivotal time in my life, and it took me a while. It didn't come to me easy. I really struggled with making that transition. Um, Somehow in my mind, I thought, well, you'll be a clinical psychologist, private practice for 45 years and you'll retire at 70 or whatever. Well, that wasn't my path in life. And the path that is a result of something that the door that closed, basically, guess what? A bigger door opened up and
Hmm.
a better door opened up. I will
Yeah.
never get burned out the rest of my life. I love what I do right now. I love helping companies. I love helping teams. I love helping individuals. I like writing books. I like lecturing. Love working with Mindcurrent and the stuff that you and I are doing together. I'll never get burned out.
Hmm.
But I had to let go of what was safe and what I knew to for the unknown. And that was a leap of faith. It
Hmm.
wasn't easy.
Yeah.
It took me it took me a long time to make that transition, believe me. But I'm so grateful for it now.
Hmm.
And
So,
so don't be afraid of the unknown. I'm going to tell you, don't be afraid of the unknown. Embrace it, even though it might feel like out of control a little bit, because man, I've never walked down that path before,
yeah.
and yet it's been great.
Yeah. That's really interesting to hear you. I mean, a lot of comments that you made there, don't fear the unknown, but also letting go of what's safe can lead to happiness, right? Because
Yes.
the brain says, "Oh, heck no,"
No, no, heck
right?
no.
The amygdala
No
right
way.
here, right? The almond
No, no
shape of
way.
our brain just is like, no, no, that's not what we do, right? So how is it that letting go of what's safe can lead to happiness? Like, share a little bit more on that.
It wasn't easy. It took me like 9 months and my body completely breaking down and me being sidelined physically. Like I couldn't do it anymore physically in order for me to get the message that
Mm,
there's another path for me. So that's not the best way to do it. I would not recommend what I went through to anybody. What I would say is, if when you're starting to feel that emotional burden or mental burden, don't wait until it becomes a physical burden when you're forced to make the change. I didn't choose to make that change. It was forced upon me, and that's not a good way to do it. I would not recommend it to anybody. I'm glad it happened, but I would never want to go through it again. So just because something is unknown doesn't mean it's bad.
mhm,
We're creatures of habit, human beings. We like doing things the same way. We like predictability. We like being in control, quote unquote. What I learned in life, we're hardly ever in control. So many things happen. This world is careening out of control in a lot of ways. So, and to be okay with it. And I found my bliss and my happiness and my peace when I made peace with the fact that whatever I thought my path was supposed to be was going to change. It was going to become something else. And until I made peace with it, I was not at peace myself, and I struggled.
mm.
Once I accepted it and embraced it, wow, it was like, the clouds parted and this beautiful sunshine came raining upon my head. It's like I had so many possibilities of all the things that I could do in life that I had never considered before.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting there, Elia, is taking that 9 months. That's a big shift in life to make that doesn't just happen. So it must have required, and I'm asking this question not knowing the answers. I'm not looking for anything specific, but you had to have done things on a daily basis. You had to have shifted in certain ways through your day and created certain habits to get to that spot where you could bounce back and recover. So what were one or two
Yes.
things that you did to shift yourself each day to get there?
Part of it was that because it was so painful, Drew, both physically and emotionally and mentally, and all I'm like, what am I supposed to learn from it? So I had to start asking that question: what is the lesson here? And once you start asking the questions, guess what? The answers will come. Maybe not the next day or in the moment, but they will come. And once those answers came, that I began to free me to let go. It's like,
Mm,
okay, so this is the reason why this is happening to me. So part of it is asking those questions, and you better prepare for the answers. At first, I was like, the answers scared me, but I'm like, I almost had no option basically than to than to embrace the change. But and then I started being grateful for the very pain I was enduring. Like being grateful when things are going easy, I can do that in my sleep. That's so easy for me to do. Being grateful when things are tough is not easy, right?
mhm,
Um, but I began to see that through this pain, and that doors are going to open up, and they did open up much faster than I anticipated, actually. And I feel like all these blessings came in my life that I almost felt like I didn't even deserve, because I had helped a lot of people in my life up to that point. Guess what? I was terrible at asking for help.
mhm, mhm.
I was terrible for saying I need help now. And when I realized, when I started doing that, it was scary for me because it made me very vulnerable. Honestly, I like sitting in the seat here. I'm the expert. Everybody comes to me. I give sage advice or whatever, and to be to be on the other side and saying I'm vulnerable and I'm weak and I need your help. It didn't come easy to me. But guess what happened? People came out of the woodworks and started to help me. Gave
Mhm,
me my first corporate job, opened up another door, made introductions, introduced me to this company and to that company, when I had no idea that people cared that much about me. I
mhm.
didn't know that,
Yeah, yeah.
and it was a pleasant surprise. And um, it's don't get me wrong, it's still not easy for me to ask for help as in general, but I'm much better than I used to be.
Well, and here's the thing though, is for that person or like thousands of people who might be saying this as they're listening of, yeah, but people don't care about me like that. It must be
It's
because
not. It's not true though. It's not true.
it's not your
Ask.
Greek accent
It's
or anything like
well. I'm sure that charming accent helped, Drew. I'm sure.
that.
No, I think people were wanted to help me, and
Yeah.
I was shocked. I'm telling you, I was afraid of rejection. I was afraid of looking weak. These were all ego stuff. When I
Mm,
got my ego out of the way and I just opened up my heart to people and say, you know what, I could use a helping hand, basically.
yeah.
People did. Most people in life are good. I
Mm,
have people are good. They want to help others. Sometimes they don't know how, and I was very specific with what I needed help with. And they're like, okay, let me see what I can do. And within a few weeks, man, my whole life changed.
yeah.
And I started from scratch again, right? I started like I had no corporate experience, nothing, from scratch. And people said, you have these gifts and talents that you've helped people in the clinical sense. You can use the same things, but in a different environment.
Mhm.
And I was kind of insecure. I've never been in the corporate world before. That wasn't easy for me. I kind of faked it till fake it till you make it a little bit at first.
Yeah.
But then things all worked out in the end.
Yeah.
And
Well,
things do work out in the end. I have that belief system. Things work out in the end. They do.
yeah, even when they don't, they still will. Right?
Yes, because even when the doors closed, because it wasn't a smooth sailing like, from day one, there were ups and downs. But every door that closed or everything that didn't work out, in the end, something better opened up.
Mhm.
I can't explain it, but
Yeah.
that's what my experience for the last 15 years.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, so tell me this, man. I'm gonna shift y- y- pun intended into another category here real quick
Of
with you,
course.
or another topic. And that is that we're teaching people in Mindcurrent that they can literally shift their energy, right? But first you need to
Yes.
understand and have an awareness of where your current energy is at. For you, of people trying to achieve more happiness, like, why does it matter, the awareness part? Why do people need to be aware of where their current emotional energy is at?
Well, how else can you change though? I mean, without awareness, basically you're blind, you
Mhm.
know. And when you see people get emotionally hijacked, for example, they're unaware, right? They're
Mhm.
unaware of their triggers, and they're not really in control of their life. So to me, you got to start asking the questions: what is my energy? Where am I right now? Am I sad? Am I mad? Am I relaxed? Am I stressed out? Am I depressed? Am I anxious? Am I um, focused?
Mhm.
Am I happy? Am I excited? These are all different human emotions. They're not right or wrong. It is what they are. So when we're able to identify that, this is what I love about Mindcurrent. Let's say you identify that you're stressed, for example. Well, then we have those shifts that actually specifically for you will say, okay, when you're stressed, here are three options. You can do any one of those three things, and that will shift your energy, and that will, you know, make you more relaxed, and maybe reduce some of your anxious feelings and your stress, and refocus towards something else. But in the end, it's all based. Awareness is key number one. Number two is take action.
Mhm. Mhm.
We can talk for hours and not take any action. Guess what? I may be hyper aware, but if I don't take action, things are not going to change. So awareness is part one, action is part two.
Yeah.
And those are both required for change.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, and it's interesting of, we put right in, what guides us in at Mindcurrent, and a big guiding principle for us, or even at the forefront of it, is we're not here to spout off more theories, right? We're really not.
Right.
The reality is everything that we do is based on sound principle, and then we take it and move it forward, but it's all action,
Right.
right? Like it
It's
has
all
to
action.
right? And that's what I think, with happiness, is sometimes it's mistaken as it's an outcome, right? And it
Right.
really is the process, right?
Yes.
And that's the key part right there to remember. Do you think that I'm off on saying that it is the process, it's not outcome?
No, not at all. I think what happens to human beings when they take action? How do they feel about themselves when they take action, when they become proactive? How do you feel? You feel empowered. It's
Yeah,
like, wow,
yeah, you're
you know,
accomplishing.
exactly. Because you're seeing things now that you're going down a different path as a result of the actions that you take.
Mhm,
So although awareness, it's hard to take action if you don't know, if you're not aware. Awareness by itself is not enough.
mhm,
Talking about something is not enough. I think you got to go from that to take action. And the quicker you take the action, the quicker you're going to shift to a different direction in your life, and a happier life, actually.
mhm, mhm. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and that to me that's what's so exciting about this, that everyone can do that. Now
Mhm,
people say, well, I don't know what actions to take. I understand what you're saying intellectually. Yeah, wouldn't it be nice for me to be happy too? But I don't know how to get there. Well, you know what? This is where Mindcurrent comes in, because these actions are from experts. Very specifically, will tell you, do this, and this will be the outcome. And
mhm.
when you and just try it. All we can ask people is that basically try it. What's the worst thing that could happen? You
Yeah,
know, try
exactly.
something and notice how you feel after you try it. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Well, and so here's the thing though, there's a lot of people in pretty rough circumstances, in different parts of the world.
Of
And
course.
again, I know there's someone listening right now who's like, but no, man, like everything's against me. Like I'm barely having can put food on the table. I can barely, I'm surviving, and it's really rough. So you don't know me. You don't know me. How
Right.
can you say that I can be happy? Right? What would you say to that? How would you respond to that?
So over the last 30 years, I've worked with tens of thousands of people, right? From all walks of life, from CEOs and millionaires and beyond, to people that literally had nothing, to homeless people, to gang members who grew up in South Central LA in very difficult circumstances, that face death and violence every single day. Guess what? When they began to implement the things that I shared with them, their perspective on life changed, and they got to see the bigger picture. So I don't, no matter where you are in your life, if you make certain choices, your life will get better, regardless of the environment or circumstances. And some people must say, well, you're being like, a cheerleader, and that's not based on reality. Trust me, it is based on reality. I've been to Haiti right after the huge earthquake that killed 250,000 people, when people had literally had nothing. I'm talking about nothing. And I worked in an orphanage with kids that had nothing before the earthquake. Never mind afterwards, when there's complete destruction, there's dirt, there's no running water, no electricity. the stench of death all around you. I'm talking about hell. I mean, right? And yet I saw kids that had nothing find happiness in the smallest of things.
Mhm.
So I know what hell looks like. The only place I haven't been is in a war zone, but I've seen destruction, physical destruction, with people have nothing, no shelter, no food, no nothing, and they could still find joy and happiness and beautiful smiles. And I've
Mhm.
experienced that firsthand. And believe me, it was rough.
Mhm.
So, and that's the reason why I say anyone can find happiness regardless of their circumstances.
Yeah, no, I think that's well said, right? I hear you, and I say that because I think that people have, reason to feel like maybe this doesn't apply to me, but I know that, having seen it and having, been in South America, numerous times in certain areas, of South America that don't have as much, right? I mean, some parts of South America they have plenty, but other parts is you get real, real serious,
Right,
some of the poverty, and have seen it as well that, you know people, it's about whether you do have millions of dollars or hardly anything. It's about in that moment, what is there that you can be grateful for? What is it there that we can appreciate in those moments?
right.
And it may be harder because of the circumstances. I think that's a reality we have to.
Of course, of course.
And it may not even be poverty. It may be that you're going through a divorce, a split up, you lost someone recently. And happiness doesn't mean not feeling, the sadness,
Right,
right? You're going to feel that, but it's a matter of, but can I still do things intentionally to create happiness, right? And it is about that on a daily basis of being able to shift your energy and owning that you have to do it, right? Wouldn't you say?
yeah. You know what's really interesting? The times in my life where I've been in the utmost pain, like when you lose somebody you love, it's so painful. You feel like the world, is ending. You can't go on anymore. You know what's really interesting about that is I felt more alive in my pain
Mhm.
because I could feel so deeply. The worst thing that could happen to me is something terrible happens and I feel nothing. I'm numb.
Mhm.
Like, not that you can stay in this kind of pain and grief forever, indefinitely, because obviously you can't. But the moments that I had that, I was actually grateful for it. I'm like, I'm so glad that I feel this pain. I know this may sound a little strange to people because I feel like I'm alive. And if I hadn't loved that person so much, I wouldn't be grieving so much as a result of that. So I'd rather love and grieve than, be neutral, don't get too close to many people and not feel anything when they die. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I want to fully be alive in my happiness, in my excitement, and in my sadness too.
Yeah.
Because
So
when I feel like that, I feel like that's what life is all about. Not to avoid certain feelings.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's yeah. Avoidance doesn't lead to happiness, right? It leads to anxiousness and fears and so on and so forth. Absolutely. So it requires some risk, right? It requires some vulnerability and putting yourself out there.
I know, but that's when you feel the most alive, though. I mean,
Yeah,
being in
absolutely.
relationships is risky. In any relationship, there's risk because you're dealing with another human being who's also imperfect. So
Hmm.
that does take a risk. But I'd rather risk than play it safe in life. I want to live life to the fullest until the last day I'm on this earth, like to the fullest. I don't want to hold anything back, and I don't want to have any regrets at the end of my life either.
Hmm. Yeah, man, this is well said. Well, perfect. Well, to wrap things up here, Elia, time is flying by, so I want to just bring it back to this question of, um, to somebody out there who's, there's just a lot of stressors, they're busy, and it's like, man, I don't have time to do this work, but I do want to feel more happiness, right? What is one thing that they can do right now, that they can do today in this moment to feel just a little bit more happiness?
Actually, to change that mindset is the first thing. When I say I don't have time to be happy, to me that by itself is problematic, right?
Yeah.
Your happiness should be the number one thing in your life.
Mhm.
Because let me put it to you this way: as I go around and I lecture, you know how I start my talk? No matter what country I'm in, it doesn't matter what language. I ask this question to the audience right off the bat. I'm like, as a parent, regard no matter what country, nationality, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, religion, whatever. If you ask any parent anywhere in the world, what would you like for your children? The answer is, I just want them to be, and then I don't say anything else. Guess what the audience says? I just want them to be happy. That
Hmm.
is a universal need. That's the most important thing. If that's what all parents want throughout the world, right, is for their kids to be happy, that's got to be your number one, priority in life.
Hmm.
So to say I'm too busy to try these things, to me is foolish, honestly.
Yeah.
You can't afford not to try these things. You can't afford not to put some energy towards finding your happiness. So it's the other way around.
Yeah.
So if somebody said that, I would challenge them. I'm like, you know what? Then you're stealing from yourself joy and happiness by having that attitude.
Yeah. Wow, man, could have said that better. I think that was well said.
I mean,
I love it. No, that's great, man. Well, I appreciate your time for this right now, Elia. I know this is going to help a lot of people, and also for everything. I mean, you're all over the app and Mindcurrent, and just want to encourage people to dive in and use some of the shifts that Elia offers there for us. So I appreciate your time, Elia. And like I said, everyone, go give it a try and notice that as you do shift your energy, you will feel better sun up to sundown.
sun up to sundown. I love that. And can I plug one thing? I don't usually plug stuff, but I think just one thing. We have the 10-day jumpstart your happiness. It's a 10-day challenge. I think that's a great way to start.
Yeah.
With every day, there's a little shift, a little video with things that anybody can do. You do that in 10 days, you're going to be in a different place than you were when you got started. I promise you that. I guarantee that.
Then you'll be feeling happiness sun up to sundown.
There you go. That's right.